Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, to 6 types of anxiety. This is one of the many videos on my channel that I'm going to be exploring in regards to mental health. This video is not a video on how to cope and deal with these types of anxiety, but rather this video is educating you on the types of anxiety disorders that exist and explaining to you how they affect people individually. Two things I'd like to say before this video begins is 1, I am not a medical professional. 2, I don't believe in self-diagnosis. Self-diagnosis is that, I don't know if it's self-diagnosis or self-diagnosis. I don't believe in self-diagnosis. If you feel as if you have one of these disorders that I'm going to be discussing and it affects your personal life in a negative way, then that type of anxiety is a problem and it is a disorder and it needs to be diagnosed by a mental health professional. I really get frustrated when people say, I think I have this disorder, and therefore they diagnose themselves as having this disorder, but in reality you need to seek a medical health professional in order to get the proper diagnosis. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, let's begin on the 6 different types of anxiety. So number 1 is Generalized Anxiety Disorder, also known as GAD. This is the most common of the 6. A lot of people have this, and basically to summarize this type of anxiety disorder, it is basically when you have constant nervousness and you're constant on edge and you don't know exactly what the source is from. You're just constantly worrying, you're constantly on edge, but there's really no understanding as to why you feel this way. The thing that you have to understand is that all 6 of these types of anxiety disorders can be very minor and very, very severe. In this particular case, I'm talking about the severe case of generalized anxiety disorder, when this constant on edge keeps you from doing daily routines or daily normal activities that you would normally do in real life. The thing about these disorders that we're going to be discussing today is that because they can be minor and very, very severe, these disorders should only be properly medicated, or you should seek a medical health professional when these disorders disrupt and damage your real life, where they make you not do normal activities that you otherwise would normally do. That's when these disorders become a real issue. The second type of anxiety is known as social phobias. Now this is a completely different than being shy. This is a big misconception here. A lot of people think that they have a social phobia because they're shy in general. Not at all. I'm a very, very shy person. If you've met me in real life or seen me when I cosplay, I really don't talk to people unless they either instigate a conversation with me. I'm a very timid and shy person. That's just how I am in real life. But I don't have a social phobia, because a social phobia is when you have a huge fear of people, whether this be friends, family, people in general, random strangers in public. The biggest thing that I want you to understand about this is that maybe you're nervous about doing a public speaking class. Well, that's pretty much a normal, natural thing. When I did my public speaking class back in college, I was nervous, I was shy, but I didn't have a social phobia of doing that to where I didn't do it. The problem with social phobia is that it is very damaging to the individual. And what I mean by this is that it takes effect where normal, healthy social interactions with humans, you purposely avoid what would be a normal social, healthy interaction with friends, family, whatever it be. You avoid that situation out of fear of people, out of fear of being social and interacting with those people. Other examples of social phobia would be constant fear of being judged by other people, or purposely not interacting with people out of fear of being embarrassed or feeling stupid in front of other human life. The third type of anxiety is what is known as the panic disorder. Now this is different from a generalized anxiety disorder, because a panic disorder specifically is not actually about panicking at all. You know, it's not worrying about, oh, I gave the wrong meal to the person at McDonald's. You know, you gave them a Big Mac instead of a McChicken, and now you're worried that your manager is going to fire you. That's not what we're talking about. A panic disorder is when you have these intense, extreme feelings, emotions that affect you physically and mentally, to the point of where you actually pass out and need medical attention. Now, what usually causes these panic disorders is in fact extreme amount of stress and, well, anxiety. So I guess you could say generalized anxiety could technically play a part in this, but generalized anxiety is not the same thing as, a panic disorder, because a panic disorder can actually do physical harm to you. Symptoms can include having massive headaches to earaches, to which causes this panic disorder to where you need to be hospitalized. And if that's the case, it's very dangerous, because when you faint, you pass out, you can fall in the wrong way and you can get harmed, depending if you could hit your head on something. So panic disorders are not something that should be treated lightly. The fourth type of anxiety is known as agoraphobia. Now, I want to make it very clear that not all, but a good portion of people who have this disorder also have a panic disorder. So all these disorders that I'm discussing here, they can overlap when people have multiple disorders that all kind of string attached to what causes what. Again, it's not all people who have agoraphobia have a panic disorder, but a good portion of people do. And the reason I say that is because agoraphobia is the fear of being in public, or the fear of kind of like social interacting, but it's basically you are to the point in your life to where you don't leave your house, to where that's how much it controls you through this disorder, is that you won't leave your house, or you won't go traveling, or you won't go to the grocery store. These are extreme examples, but they are real examples. Agoraphobia also deals with avoiding all types of social interaction. It's different than social phobia, where you have a fear of socializing, but this is where you're actually taking the time to avoid by not even going out in public, and that's really, really scary. There are many, 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 many symptoms which cause this specific, but I think the most common one actually is due to abuse. This could be physical abuse or sexual abuse, in which people are not comfortable with going in a new environment, where they feel as if they go into a new environment, they have no control of the things around them, and that's why they like to stay in their own place. The fifth type of anxiety is a very common one known as PTSD. This is known as post-traumatic stress disorder. And the title explains it, post-traumatic stress disorder deals with traumatic experiences. Now, these traumatic experiences affect you psychologically and mentally. This can be in combat, through the military. This could be being a cop. This could be being sexually abused. This could be being in a car accident and you saw someone get killed, and from that experience, from that trauma, you have developed post-traumatic stress disorder. It deals with traumatic events. Post-traumatic stress disorder is something that you need to have help with, because this is one of the most common disorders that can affect you for the rest of your life till the day that you die. And it's something that can really, really control people unintentionally, to where they're afraid to go out in public, that they're afraid to interact with said people because of the trauma that they experienced, that they're afraid to drive a car because they saw a car accident happen and somebody was killed. And finally, the sixth type of anxiety, and this is known as obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. Again, all of these things can be very minor to severe, but in this particular case, we're talking about the severe types. And the thing about this is that you have to understand between obsessive compulsive disorder is that there's a difference between the two symptoms, which is obsession and compulsion. Obsessions particularly deal with lots of reoccurring thoughts. For example, that you're worried that your dog is going to get hit by a car, although that dog is constantly in your home with you. It's this obsession with something. While in a compulsion is something, for example, every time you go to bed, you check the door 10, 15, 20 times to make sure that it's locked, and every time it's locked. Or for that matter, you constantly wash your hands after every doorknob or door that you open. That's the difference between obsession and compulsion. And one of the biggest things that you have to understand about OCD is, depending on the severity of it, some people cannot control it. They actually have to be medicated in order to help with their OCD. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles. This video has been types of anxiety. I hope this video was helpful and educational to you in some way. I would also like to recommend that only a licensed psychologist and therapist can actually diagnose you with these types of disorders. Again, as I said in the start of this video, I do not recommend self-diagnoses, because it just, you need a healthcare professional to make sure that you actually have a extreme case of one of these disorders to where you can get the proper medication and get help. I also want to make it very clear that if you have one of these disorders, you should not feel like that you're worthless or that you're not worthy of being loved or respected or cared for simply because you have one of these things. Every person has struggles, every person has different things that they're dealing with, and having one of these disorders does not devalue your self-worth, and you shouldn't look at yourself as different if you struggle with one of these disorders. So thank you for watching. My name is Daniel Sulzbach, also known as Mr. Repzion. Thank you for watching this video, and peace, the rep out, and have a fantastic Monday.